Thank you so much. It is such an honor and inspiration to be in this room with all the organizers of our movement, and I'm grateful to Natalie, who I've learned many lessons from as she holds in her hands the belief that it's completely possible to organize millions of us all at once, and she's a key part in helping make it happen. So thank you, Natalie, for that gracious introduction. And I also wanted to join my brother Rich Trumka in offering my special thanks to Bob Borisage, Roger Hickey, and all the talented leaders of the Campaign for America's Future for bringing us together, because I can't think of a moment that's more important to take back America. But I wanted to start off today by telling you a story of William Kesey. He was a janitor on the south side of Chicago in 1902. His day started at 5 in the morning, and he worked till 10 p.m. at night. He scrubbed, he painted, and he cleaned. And when he couldn't get his work done in a day, his wife joined him for free. And if one tenant had a single problem with him, he could be fired on the spot. 7 days a week, 365 a year. For that, he was paid $20 a month. So one day, he figured out that he deserved better. And he gathered 200 other janitors on the south side of Chicago and asked a simple question. Should we band together and fight for a better life by forming a union? And the janitors, without hesitation, said yes. And it created a firestorm. Tenant owners tried to intimidate those janitors. Politicians targeted them. The media said they were nothing more than servants, and that the idea that their work had value was laughable. They were, as one columnist put it, the people that God forgot. But they stood together. They marched together. They walked through fire together. And they won together, again and again. And a few years later, William Kesey was asked a simple question. What was he proudest of that he had won? Was it better pay? Was it shorter hours? Was it better working conditions? And he thought for a moment and decided that he was proudest of, based on one word, respect. R-E-S-P-E-C-T, respect. Each and every one of us in this room knows in the bottom of our souls and in the depths of our being what that word means. That William Kesey's work has value and that every person's work has value. That his life, his job had value. I share that story because I believe it's the same values that inspire us today, and that William Kesey was willing to stick his neck out, fight for a better life, and insist on respect are the key things that make our movement what it is today. It's what unites the fabric of all of us, of workers, of immigrants, of African Americans, Latinos, Asian Pacific Islanders, and all people of color, the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgendered community, students, environmentalists, and everyone in this room today. It's what brings us together today to take back our country and the American dream, to fight for our vision for America. And we know that we need each other to make that dream a reality. Reverend Jesse Jackson used to tell the story of his grandmother who couldn't afford a blanket. Instead, she found all kinds of patches of different cloth and sewed them together in a beautiful quilt. Just like our quilt, today, workers fight for good jobs and collective bargaining rights, but we can't do it alone because our patch isn't big enough. When women fight for equal pay, we can't do it alone because our patch isn't big enough. When students fight for a better chance for the future, it can't be done alone because the patch just isn't big enough. When gays and lesbians fight for the freedom to love, we can't do it alone because our patch isn't big enough. When African Americans and Latinos fight for equal opportunity and economic equity, it can't be done alone because the patch just isn't big enough. When immigrants fight for a right to be citizens in our country, it can't be done alone because the patch just isn't big enough. But you and I know that when we weave our patches together into one garment of destiny, bound by common values and a common belief about what our country can be, we know that we can achieve liberty and justice for all in our country. We can achieve an America, just like Rich talked about, when you work hard for a living, you only need one job to feed your family, where you can retire with dignity and expect that your children are going to do better than you've done in a clean, safe, and just world. The bottom line is we cannot let our quilt be torn apart by the forces that want to divide our power. We must stand against racism, sexism, and homophobia, and all the things that try and tear us apart. We are not going to allow each other to be divided by labels like illegal, faggot, terrorist, or union thug. I know these words are hard to hear, but we know better. And we know that if we stitch those patches together tighter than ever before, those patches will form a people-powered movement that we know we need to build. I know how powerful America can be when we work together. I've lived it. I grew up outside of Detroit in a family of 10. It was a time when the UAW built good jobs and great communities in my home state of Michigan. But today, things have changed. When I return home to Michigan, my 23 nieces and nephews are worried about their future and their chances for a better life. Worried if they'll ever find good jobs in their home state and build the lives that they imagine. We know we need jobs in America, but jobs alone won't change the course of history and give my nieces and nephews and all of our children and all of us a better future. We don't need just jobs in this country. We need good jobs with justice. We need to create full-time jobs that allow people to buy a home, buy a car, help their kids through college, retire with dignity, and pass on to our children a better, safe, and clean life. One of the problems today that Rich just outlined is that there's too many people in America making money on Wall Street. We have too many job-killing corporations like Verizon that are reporting $24 billion in profit, not paying a single dime in tax, and laying off 20% of their American workforce. You want to talk about jobs? We can create good jobs in our country in manufacturing. When Amazon first designed the Kindle, they looked for a year to produce the LCD screen in the US. But they couldn't find a single company in our country to do it. That's wrong. If American genius invented it, America labor should build it right here at home. We want to talk about good jobs in America. We know that 10,000 baby boomers are reaching retirement age each day, and that we need 2 million more paid caregivers in healthcare by 2016. We need more than 250,000 more registered nurses. There's work that needs doing in every city and town in this country. Many of you in this room have roads and highways that you've demonstrated at recently that need to be rebuilt or repaired in your town. How many bridges do we have in our communities in this room that are crumbling in disrepair? How many children are learning in classrooms that were built when Harry Truman was president? There is work that needs doing, and millions of people that want to do it. And it's time to put the two together and put America back to work now. So from Albany to Las Vegas, I want to have you join me in the fall demand. Good jobs now. Good jobs now. Everybody's got to pay. And no more cuts. We're here today at the Campaign for America's Future to say enough is enough. America cannot continue down this path. It's time to stand up and fight. It's time for the people of our country to come together in a real grassroots movement for change. And I'm not talking about that angry movement of people that's funded and organized by corporate groups. We've already got the Tea Party for that. I'm talking about a real change movement that returns power to the only place that's ever really driven change in our country, the people. The question for us today is the same question that William Kesey asked over 100 years ago. Are we willing to band together to fight for a better life? Are we willing to call to this moment together as a powerful, unified force? We can take incredible pride in the work that we've done and that we've been able to accomplish together. We saw a spring dominated by a right-wing demand for cuts, 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 and more cuts that further devastated our communities. And we collectively sounded the alarm and used the summer to lift up the #1 priority for the working people and reframe the national debate in this country. Ordinary Americans took a leap and did things they never imagined they would do before. Unemployed constituents went day after day and sat in Paul Ryan's office in Wisconsin to demand that he meet with them and talk about a jobs agenda. There are Americans who have never before taken political action in their lives that found the courage to stand up and call the question on a Republican member of Commerce asking, where are the jobs? Or to follow Boehner to a golf course and hold a sign and say, where are the jobs? We want good jobs now, as he was doing a $30,000 a person fundraiser on a golf course. We saw that Verizon workers stood up with courage in a terrible economic climate and refused once again to sacrifice themselves to a corporation that is making record profits and fails to invest in American workers and our future. We just witnessed Americans in 11 cities take to bridges from Boston to Los Angeles to demand that Congress pass the American Jobs Act. And right now, as we speak, American students and union members, environmentalists, are occupying Wall Street, and the movement is spreading to Washington, D.C., Chicago, LA, and elsewhere. It's incredible, and it's incredibly inspiring. But you and I know it has to just be the beginning, because by themselves, these sparks are not enough to turn the tide in our country. Sisters and brothers, you and I both know that the old playbook is just not going to work. The attacks are too great and the stakes are too high. We cannot get away any longer with protecting our own turf. We need to change our game and meet this moment with a new level of unity. We need to take the incredible lessons we've learned in Wisconsin and elsewhere and nationalize it. We need to add oxygen and water to these inspiring sparks that I've just listed off and sustain a people-powered movement, not just to re-elect President Barack Obama, but into 2013 and beyond. We need to imagine what it will take to stay in the streets, to take America back, and to be proud of our communities again. We need to activate people who have never taken action in their lives. We need to have each other's backs and win our vision for America. We have to stitch together that quilt so that next year, when we meet in this room, we are not going to be walking in with a labor point of view, an environmentalist point of view. We are going to walk in together with a united front, completely clear that we are willing to stand for each other and with each other and be responsible for a mobilization unlike anything our generation has ever seen. What I like most about my role is that I get to travel the country and listen to what American working people are facing every day. These are the people, along with members of all of your organizations, who believe in our country and believe in our future. And even though we've been battered and bruised by the economy in the past few decades, we wake up every morning believing in what's possible for us all over again. It's that kind of optimism that needs to be nurtured. It deserves to be rewarded and deserves to be respected, with each one of us bringing our own patch to that quilt. Because the truth is, none of us have ever been overlooked by God. None of us are forgotten. Like the janitors who began SEIU 100 years ago, America is stronger when we work together. That belief that we all have worth, that we all have value, that we all deserve respect, cannot be some organizing part of our past, but a principle that guides each and every action that we take together. It's going to take some work to make this the fabric of our future, but I know together with all of you, it's completely possible to make the impossible possible in our lifetime. Are you ready to take back America? Are you ready to fight for our vision for this country? I look forward to standing with you and making it happen. Thank you all very much.